How's it going, everyone? Marriland here, and this is Marriland's Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon Pokémon Review series, which ties into my Ultra Moon walkthrough series. Although, don't worry, both the review and the walkthrough series apply for Pokémon Ultra Sun as well. This video goes over the various Pokémon and their evolutions that can be found in the listed area that also haven't been covered in a previous video. You can use the timestamps in the description to jump directly to the review that you want to hear. The reviews up ahead are for in-game purposes only and are not geared towards player versus player fights or post-game stuff. The stats you see listed are the Pokemon's base stats, not actual stats, and are the base of calculating stats at any level. Anyway, on with the reviews. Mankey, the agile pig monkey Pokemon that has been around for a while, to say the least. It's a pure fighting type Pokemon that evolves in a Primeape at level 28, which isn't great, but isn't terrible either. Mankey and Primeape have either Vital Spirit or Anger Point for their main abilities. Vital Spirit prevents it from falling asleep, while Anger Point is very risky, but it can be incredible if it activates. With Anger Point, whenever it's hit by a critical hit, it raises its attack to the absolute max, plus 6 stages. Now, crits are still relatively rare, but that insane boost every now and then can be handy. Sadly, its stats are a bit lacking. As a Mankey, it's pretty fast and has good attack, but is very, very frail aside from that. Primeape follows that trend, with better attack and speed, but still nothing through the roof, and fairly lousy defensive stats. Mankey doesn't learn anything too exciting early on. Cross Chop at level 22 is really nice though. It hits hard and has a high chance of a critical hit too, but it's a bit inaccurate. That actually works very well with Focus Energy or a Dire Hit if you can pull it off, giving it a 100% critical hit chance. Punishment at level 30 as a Primeape is an interesting move. It has 60 power, but has 20 more power for each stat boost the target has. That can be extremely powerful against some totems and a certain late-game boss fight, but it's not that useful other than that. Close Combat is an amazing move on Primeape, learned at level 39, because it hits very, very hard, but lowers Primeape's defense and special defense by 1 stage afterwards. Since Primeape is pretty fast, it fits its style at least. Screech at level 44 is a bit late, but still helpful for totem fights and other tough boss fights, even if you don't use Primeape to finish them off. Stomping Tantrum is a move that separates Primeape from other fighting types, because it's a strong ground-type move, but it doubles its damage if a move of yours failed on the previous turn. Lastly, it gets Outrage, another interesting choice at level 53, but it's very risky because you'll confuse yourself afterwards. Another advantage that Mankey and Primeape have is they actually have a pretty good selection of TM and Move Tutor moves available to them. Brick Break is an absolute must-have for Mankey as soon as you put it on your team. Smackdown and Thief are options before leaving the first island, and early tutor moves include Fire Punch and Iron Tail. And yes, it is suspicious that Primeape can learn Iron Tail despite not having a tail. Anyway, Rock Tomb, Aerial Ace, Bulldoze, and Low Sweep are some options in the middle game. U-Turn can be very handy to switch out after doing some bug-type damage. Seed Bomb, Thunder Punch, and Ice Punch are also excellent mid-game tutor moves that give Primeape a lot of diversity, and then Acrobatics and Rock Slide are also very nice moves to pick up before leaving the third island. Stone Edge and Poison Jab are also options late game too. Okay, so that may sound great and all, but here's the thing. There are plenty of plenty of fighting types in Alola, a lot of which you've already encountered. If you're looking for a speedy fighting type, Hawlucha is usually a better bet thanks to its slightly better durability and much better speed, although Primeape does hit harder. Hawlucha has less variety though. And then there are burly fighting types like Hariyama and Machamp that you can get fairly soon as well, and also at a lower level. Primeape's stats are unfortunately the worst among all fully evolved fighting type Pokemon, so making the decision to go with Mankey over any other fighting type option is a decision that shouldn't be made lightly, although it does at least have a few advantages. I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is Rufflet and especially its evolution, Braviary, look pretty cool. The bad news is, you're probably never going to see Braviary, because Rufflet evolves at level 54. What the heck? Level 54? Are you serious? It really doesn't matter what moves it gets, or what its stats are like, because you're going to be carrying a Rufflet with you for over 90% of the game. It's just not worth it. It really isn't. I'll tell you now. Just use other Pokemon. Toucannon accomplishes a lot of the same. So many flying types do. If you thought Rufflet was bad, Vullaby is even worse. Yeah, like Rufflet, Vullaby evolves at the eternally distant level 54. Both Vullaby and Mandibuzz are dark flying types. They're a lot more defense-oriented and actually have quite lousy attacking stats, so there's not even much you can do. Oh yeah, and, you know, you'll be toting around a Vullaby for over 90% of the game. Literally, why would you do that when you could just grab a Murkrow and have a decent dark flying type that can actually do some damage? I mean, Honchkrow is not very defensive, so there is a night and day difference between the two families, but really, Murkrow is pretty decent, even unevolved, and you'll have access to Honchkrow long before you'd ever get a Mandibuzz. And if you're looking for a more defensive dark type, there's always Umbreon, which is definitely more capable, and you don't even have to wait 5 eternities. Hawlucha is quite the addition to the Alolan Pokédex, arriving only in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and boy is it a great addition. Hawlucha is a very interesting fighting flying type, giving it a fair share of both weaknesses and resistances. It has either Limber or Unburden for its main abilities, with Limber preventing paralysis and Unburden doubling its speed if it consumes its held item. Both are fine, although Limber is probably the preferred of the two since it already has more than enough speed. Keep in mind that you can trade for a Hawlucha before taking on the first trial, by trading a Spearow in the Pokemon Center en route 2. That Hawlucha, Cha, will always have Unburden for its ability, and will always be of a brave nature. Since it's a traded Pokemon, it will gain 50% more experience than your own Pokemon, so because of that, you'll find that Cha will often be a few levels ahead of the rest of your team, and that's fine. Let's talk about Hawlucha's stats. It has quite high speed, higher than any other fighting-type Pokemon in Alola by a long shot. Its attack is unfortunately among the lowest for fighting-type Pokemon in Alola, but despite that, it's not terrible. Its hit points and defenses are at least passable, giving it a chance to at least take a few hits. However, there's something very important to mention about its stats. Hawlucha doesn't evolve, so you're getting the strength of something fully evolved before you've even cleared the first island. At that point in the game, its stats will seem borderline legendary. These stats may not improve over time, but they're still more than sufficient for taking you through the entire game. Although understand that as time moves on and more of your Pokemon evolve, Hawlucha won't seem quite as impressive as it did in the early game. Okay, now let's get to the juicy part and where Hawlucha really shines, its moves. Hawlucha learns a ton of excellent moves throughout the game, both by level up and by other means like TMs and tutors. First of all, it starts with Karate Chop and Wing Attack, two moves that are 50 and 60 power respectively, and complement both of Hawlucha's types. It gets Roost at level 12 to restore its hit points if you feel the need to, but it also gets Aerial Ace at level 16, which is a replacement for Wing Attack that features better accuracy. Encore at level 20 can cause some shenanigans, but isn't generally recommended unless you're feeling frisky. Here's the big one for Hawlucha. Level 28 gives it access to its signature move, Flying Press, a surprising dual-type move that is both fighting and flying simultaneously. While that can be nice, I've found it to be less reliable than you'd think, because it means you can't hit Bug, Rock, or Steel-type Pokemon for super effective damage with it. It has a nice 100 power, with only a 5% chance of missing, but think twice about replacing your dedicated fighting or flying type move with it, since you're making the trade-off of extra damage and an extra move slot for reduced coverage. Level 40 grants it Feather Dance, which can be helpful for softening up the foe by lowering its attack by 2 stages, potentially giving Hawlucha a chance to survive a few more hits it otherwise wouldn't. High Jump Kick at level 44 is absolutely crazy damage though, striking with an incredible 130 power, but with just 90 accuracy, and worse yet, if you miss with High Jump Kick, you'll take recoil damage equal to half of Hawlucha's maximum hit points. It's a very bad thing to miss with High Jump Kick, but the insane power is worth it. You could equip a Wide Lens to essentially mitigate that, but it's a pain to get, usually requiring you to use Thief on a Sableye and hope to get lucky. It also prevents you from making use of Acrobatics. It's your call, but it's usually worthwhile. Lastly, at level 60, or by spending a heart scale, it can pick up Swords Dance to raise its attack by 2 stages, which, combined with its high speed, makes sweeping opposing teams very easy. It also learns a ton of great TM and tutor moves, almost too many to list. First and foremost, Brick Break. Yes, 100% yes, absolutely right away. It should replace Karate Chop and will serve you extremely well until you get Flying Press. Then you'll have to make the decision whether to replace it with Flying Press or to use both together, depending on whether you need power or super effective damage. Fire Punch from a tutor after leaving the first island is a solid move for it that gives it some good coverage, but it's not generally recommended since fighting and flying combined cover every type fire is strong against. Rock Tomb halfway through the second island can be helpful for it. U-turn on the third island can be a great way for it to do some decent damage, and then switch out to one of your Pokemon better suited to handling the foe. Plus, some Bug-type damage is hard to pass up, although it does get access to X-Scissor later on. The move tutor on the third island has some excellent choices for Hawlucha as well. Thunder Punch is pretty sweet. Zen Headbutt is reasonable, although only really helpful against poison types if you have a flying type move already. And Iron Head can counter fairy types if you're feeling lucky, but again, fighting covers 2 of the 3 types Iron Head is super effective against. Near the end of the third island, it gets access to perhaps the best TM move you can teach it, Acrobatics. It's a 55 power flying type move that has double power if you don't have a held item. That's 100% accuracy on a 110 power flying type move. Yes, please. That, combined with High Jump Kick, give it 2 ridiculously strong stab moves that should knock the stuffing out of so many things it's not even funny. If that weren't enough, it gets Rock Slide, Stone Edge, and at the very end of the game, Poison Jab. If only Drain Punch were available before beating the game, it'd be great. But you may find Hawlucha useful even after the game is finished, so definitely look into that as well. Also, Bulk Up can be an interesting option to raise its attack and defense, but it's usually not something you'll want to bother with. As you can see, Hawlucha learns a lot of excellent moves, both through leveling up and through TMs and tutors. Without spoiling too much of the boss fights in the game, I'll just say that Hawlucha, or specifically Cha in this case, completely obliterates the first totem. Hawlucha completely obliterates the first Grand Trial. Hawlucha completely obliterates the second trial, as well as a potentially tricky fight just beforehand. Hawlucha does pretty good against the third trial if you get it at Rock Tomb. Hawlucha completely obliterates the fourth trial. Hawlucha completely obliterates the second Grand Trial. Hawlucha can potentially obliterate the fifth trial, although it can get hit pretty hard in that fight. Hawlucha finally meets its match in the sixth trial, but even then, U-turn and then Iron Head can work to your advantage. The point I'm trying to make here is that Hawlucha's excellent moves, great stats early on, and insane speed are enough to put most challenging fights in the game into easy mode. Not all fights, but a huge portion of them. Because of that, Hawlucha is an absolutely amazing option that will carry you through most of the game, and even through to the very end if you let it. Alright, that's it for this Pokemon review episode. If you enjoyed it, perhaps consider hitting that like button or subscribing to the Marriland channel for more. And if you have any other cool strategies, ideas, recommended moves, or overall opinion on any of the Pokemon here, even if you just like it for being adorable or something, feel free to leave a comment down below to get the discussion going. You can find more Pokemon reviews, as well as my Pokemon Ultra Moon walkthrough series, in the links below in the description or on this end screen. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.